She regularly contributes for esteemed outlets like the First Post, Swarajya Marg, Vion, and OP India. And as I have already laid out the rules for the entire session, I would again like to repeat that all the participants are kindly requested to keep their mics on mute for the entirety of the session and let the speakers speak their way out. And secondly, make use very wise usage of the chat box and do not keep repetitively posting the same thing over and over again. And the any kind of disturbance, if it is to be created while the session is going on, it shall lead to the expulsion of the member. So now I shall hand over the stage to Priyanka ma'am to continue further. Thank you.
Hi everyone, how are you? I know your mics are muted, but hopefully we'll have a great session. What I want to do is let's get right into it because the workshops that I've hosted before, we almost ran out of time. So I want to make sure that this is a more interactive session rather than you just listening to me. And hopefully we should all be able to write something down by the end of the session. So if you don't already have it, get a pad and a paper, a notebook and a paper, a couple of pieces of paper and a pen, and let's get started. Okay. So now we are talking about freelance writing. And can anyone give me the definition of that? Like, what do you think freelance writing is? Just unmute your mics and go for it. Yeah, that's correct. You can write on anyone else?
When you are not
Freelance
given any
writing,
specific topic, and whatever topic suits you, you can write on that. Like when you're
Okay.
not given any specific topic by anyone.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Then I think there was another person that was saying something.
yeah, I think freelance writing is something that you write on your own. Like you can choose your own topic on your own pace, and it could be anything that interests you. It not because it is not related to some organization, so you can have your own thoughts. Yeah, you
Correct.
don't have to follow somebody else.
Yeah. So basically, what freelancer, all three of you are correct. And there's a benefit to that, and there's a downfall to that, right? Freelance writing means you can virtually write on anything. You're not mandated to write on anything. You're not forced to write on anything. You're not a journalist hired by a paper where your editor tells you write about this. You can write on anything. Now, the downfall of it is what do you write on, right? If you can write on anything, you have it's like almost too many to choose from, right? So there's a lot of topics. What do you write about, and how do you choose what's best for you? So let's focus on the types of sort of freelance writing. Now, within the last 10 years or so, I would say a little over 10 years, freelance writing has changed, right? Because before, maybe 10, 15 years ago, in India, freelance writing was mainly opinion editorials, articles in newspapers and magazines, correct? Today, freelance writing can be anything, right? Because you have social media. Now, if you are doing on your, I think all of you at least, if not have, you're aware of Facebook accounts, Instagram accounts, right? Now, freelance writing, if you think about it, if you're writing the same post on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter, are they going to follow the same format? Can anyone sort of decipher that for me? If you're writing something about, let's say, your day, something very simple, is it going to be the same on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter?
Official one in Twitter, and it's a bit different in Facebook because it gets a bit of unofficial.
Yeah. So Instagram and Facebook are a bit more personal, unofficial, talking about you. You can use slang and no one's going to care, right? I think people are more receptive to slang on Facebook and Instagram as well. On Twitter, you only have a certain character count, word count that you need to write and get your main points in. Twitter, a lot of people use officially because there are so many verified personalities on there. National leaders use Twitter to update people now. So freelance writing has taken many different forms, right? It can be a few lines on Twitter to an entire Facebook post. I think Facebook, it's unlimited if I'm not mistaken. And you have the traditional op-eds and things that appear in newspapers and online, right? Online articles, online platforms like Swarajya or Op India, correct? So what I want to do today is I want to focus on the opinion editorial. And the reason for that is, first of all, you guys know what an opinion editorial is.
It's your own opinion on or your own take on something that is prevalent around you.
Yeah, so it is, that's actually a very good definition. It's your own take on something, but that something has to be factual as well, right? So somehow you have to balance credibility with your own opinion in an opinion editorial. And the reason why I want to focus on it and how to write one, right? And I'm going to have you all write at least the intro of an opinion editorial by the end of this session, is if you can write an opinion editorial, you will be very easily able to convert it into a Facebook post, into an Instagram post, into a Twitter post, right? Because I think you're all aware that the format is a bit different, right? So if you're writing, for example, I just came back from playing tennis, for example, right? Now, if I'm supposed to write on Twitter, I would probably put a picture of me playing and 2 lines, right? But if I were to write in a Facebook post, I would probably say, oh, the weather was so hot and it's the middle of summer in New Delhi and so on and so forth. It would be a little longer, right? Now, when you have that opinion editorial, you'll have all these details. And on Twitter, Instagram, you generally don't, because readers don't like to read entire monologues, right? You lose your interest. But opinion editorials, you somehow have to bring credibility. So Rahul, I'm not sure if you're still, is Rahul here? I think, can we share the inverted triangle sort of a thing? Let's just get right into it.
Okay.
Yeah?
I'll put the link.
Yeah. So Rahul is sharing the format of what an opinion editorial is. And it's just like science. There's a very standard format to it. And once you understand this format, you'll be able to write about anything that you want. And we'll talk about how how you should choose as an individual which topic to write about. I'll talk about that a little bit as well. So first of all, an opinion editorial should always start out with something called the lead, right? Lead can be, it's not L-E-A-D, it's generally in journalism spelled L-E-D, the lead, right? The lead is the most gripping part of the article. How are you going to hook your reader in, right? It should be not a sensational line, right? So, don't write Rahul Gandhi has just gotten into a train crash when your article is about something else. Don't write that, right? But it should be something factual that is the most interesting and insightful part of your article, right? That is how you should start an article. So if you're talking about coronavirus, for example, you should be writing something along the lines of, there are as many as, I don't know, 100 million cases of coronavirus around the world. And in India, there are one third that many cases, and we're still on the rise. So that makes the reader want to read more. That what is this person talking about? Does everyone understand the lead? If you don't, I think you'll start understanding it as we go on.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can the lead includes any quote or something like that?
I would avoid it. Quotes are for academic papers, right? Quotes are for like if you're going into a post-graduation program or a PhD, you can start any research paper or academic paper with a quote. But a quote
Okay,
is
all right.
when you're writing an article. An article has to be something different that somebody cannot Google and find out, right?
Yeah.
Ma'am, lead is a title.
Lead is not the title. The title actually comes last.
So can you please explain this?
Yeah, so lead is the first line of your article, right?
Okay, that's what is taking the reader inside to read forward.
Yeah, so it's a very, very gripping line. That's your lead. Now, the other part of the introduction is just like an academic paper, right? Like a research paper, but condensed. So every section, now an op-ed should not be more than 800 words, right? I think Indian Express and the larger publications, the higher up you go, you have fewer words. So some of them, it depends on the topic, but Indian Express will never take more than 1200 words, and 1200 if it's a very sort of a statistically driven article. So for example, if you're talking about an act or a bill or some kind of statistics that you're explaining, they will not take more than 1200 words. If you're not talking about that, for example, if you're talking about coronavirus, if you're talking about a health pandemic, if you're talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, right? They will not take more than 800 words. Swarajya works the same, and I think you should aim around 800. Beyond also takes, if you're getting to about 850, they start getting a little like, oh, okay, too many words over here, right? So your op-ed should be either 800 words or 1200 words. This means, let's break the op-ed down before we start getting into the hook and the introduction, right? So your introduction should be about 5 sentences, 5 to 6 sentences, okay? Then you're going to have 3 body paragraphs, right? And those 3 body paragraphs of 5 to 6 sentences each should explain what your article is about. It should build your credibility on what your opinion is. At the end of the day, you're talking about your opinion and what's important to you, right? So if you're talking about coronavirus, maybe perhaps you want to talk about India building, if India creates the first vaccine for coronavirus, India will be a leader on the global stage. Maybe that's your op-ed because you really feel that, right? If we are the first to create a vaccine, then I think India will be way ahead of other countries. So I believe this. So let's write an op-ed about it, right? So my lead should be something like the entire world is racing to find a vaccine. But as of August 15th, India is already ready to do human trials, which is true. That should be the lead, right? Now, the rest of your introduction, the remaining 4 to 5 sentences, should be explaining what your hook sentence is about, right? So if you're talking about, let's go with this vaccine example. Is everyone with me? Because it's really hard on especially a virtual session.
Yes, yes.
Yeah?
We understanding. Yes, ma'am, it's clear. It's quite
Cool.
loose. Yeah.
Cool. So now if we're talking about India creating the first vaccine, right? Now the rest of your introduction should be introducing the topic, right? So you're going to pretend that your readers, quite frankly, are idiots. Even an Indian Express reader is an idiot. They know nothing about coronavirus. They know nothing about the pandemic. Because if you think about it, somebody sitting in the United States is not going to know what India is going through, right? He or she will be well versed maybe in the United States if they watch the news on coronavirus. But Indian Express is an online platform. An Indian in America can also, like an NRI, can also be reading Indian Express. They have a large readership base. So you always want to assume that your readers are absolute idiots. They know nothing about your topic, right? So how to explain this vaccine and coronavirus to an idiot in 800 words? That is the challenge of an op-ed. So now the remaining 4 to 5 sentences in your introduction should be explaining 2 things, right? So maybe 2 sentences each. Number 1, India and coronavirus. What's going on? So maybe perhaps you'd want to include the latest statistics and always cite your stats. Now, if you're citing statistics, unlike a research paper where you have footnotes or where you can put parentheses, an op-ed will not allow that, right? So when you're citing, you can say according to, never use Wikipedia, but you can say according to Wikipedia, so and so. According to this expert, these are the latest statistics. According to Dr. blah, 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 there are 100 million cases of coronavirus in India so far, right? So you want to explain the situation in India. The next 2 sentences should be about the vaccine, right? You should say something along the, I don't know what the latest data on vaccine is, but I believe that the world is nowhere close. India is one of the first countries that is already on human trials, right? Because creation of a vaccine takes a long time, actually. It takes approximately 12 to 18 months. So we won't see the vaccine in a while, but India is getting very, very close because the entire world is racing to find this vaccine. And whichever country creates it will be at a remarkable advantage, actually, going forward, right? And you also want to mention that without the vaccine, coronavirus does not go away. This should be your introduction, right? So I hope you guys were taking notes on that. Now, what I want you to do is write an introduction for me, 4 to 5 sentences about vaccine and coronavirus based on what I've said. And you don't have to look up stats, just make them up, or if you have enough time, make them up. And then I think Rahul will randomly call on somebody to read what they've written. So let's take about 4 minutes, 5 minutes to write an introduction, just 5 sentences, right? And your first sentence should be the same, what I told you before. It should be a hook. So it's 4:59 right now. So let's write until about 5:04 p.m. or 5:05. Ready? Go.
What exactly would like a body of an article should be like after the catch you said?
The article should be on how creating a vaccine for coronavirus will put India ahead of the rest of the world.
Okay, ma'am.
Can you please repeat that you just said?
Yeah. It is how creating a vaccine for coronavirus will put India ahead of the rest of the world.
Okay, okay, thank you.
If you have any questions, just shout it out. Just unmute and let me know. I'm here. You shouldn't be asking me about conclusions and concluding articles right now. We're working on the introduction. We'll get to the conclusion. Work on the introduction, and I think all your questions will be clarified. Don't worry, we'll have a question answer session at the end, if in case you guys are confused. Right now, I want you guys to focus just on the introduction. We're writing for just about 2 to 3 more minutes here. I just want an introduction, 4 to 5 sentences on how creating a vaccine for coronavirus will put India ahead of the rest of the world. Feel free to look up statistics. You can make them up. If you're citing something, if you have enough time, if you're a super achiever and you can Google it really quickly.
What's the length?
Write that in.
The ideal length you are looking for?
4 to 5 sentences.
Okay.
Remember, your op-ed is 800 words, so don't cram a sentence with multiple words. They should be quick, simple thoughts that make your point. Have another minute here, another 2 minutes maybe to go.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yep. What's your question? Okay, let's write for maybe 1 more minute. Okay. Rahul, do you want to pick some people some lucky people
I
to
can
do the introduction?
I can do the same. So, anyone who is interested to read the introduction part, please drop your names in the chat box and I shall be taking you up out of turn. Please drop your names in the chat box. Okay, Vipul. Okay, Vipul is up. Vipul, can you please read us out the introduction part?
Okay, let's go to the next one because we don't have a lot of time. There's quite a few people. Oh, great job, guys. It's quite a few.
Anamika? Anamika,
Yes,
can you please
yes,
read
ma'am.
out?
Yes, ma'am. As the coronavirus seems mushrooming all over the world, India looks forward to for human trial, and by following the global norms to fast track the COVID-19 cases, ICMR has created a vaccine, and without vaccine, coronavirus can't be treated.
Okay, very to the point. I'm sorry, I didn't get the name. Who was reading that?
Anamika was reading it. Anamika was reading it.
Yeah.
Now,
Hold on.
maybe we can
So,
have.
what you want before we go to the next person? Anamika, I see you wrote maybe 2, 3 sentences that are one was incomplete. So human trial for what, right? Remember, I told you you have to assume that the audience is an idiot. So they'll be like, okay, human trials for what? So the word vaccine was not even in your introduction, right?
Okay,
So
ma'am.
never,
Yes, ma'am.
never assume that the reader has this information. They are a complete idiot. Like, you know, the stupidest person in your class, like you're trying to explain something to them. This is how you should treat an op-ed, even if you're writing for Indian Express, right? Everyone
Sure,
knows
ma'am.
what coronavirus is, right? So you don't have to define coronavirus. But you'll notice that some op-eds even do that if they have enough words. Right now, we assume that the only thing people know is that, yes, coronavirus exists. Now, your introduction should be about 4 to 5 sentences. It was 2 sentences run on. So let's come back to you, and I will come back to you. So rewrite that a little bit as the others are reading it, and make it about 4 to 5 sentences because your points are good and to the point, but this is a little too to the point. Okay, so make your
Sure.
2 run-on sentences or 3 run-on sentences into 4, 5 separate sentences, right? So go. We'll come back to you. Next, who's next?
Can we have Bhakti? Can we have Bhakti to speak out her introduction, please?
Go for
Okay.
it.
Here it goes. In the pandemic struck world where the brightest minds are struggling to find the cure for coronavirus, India gears up to begin human trials of its vaccine from 15th August 2020. Whole world awaits whether or not it will gain independence from COVID-19 on the 73rd Independence Day of India. COVID-19 virus crippled the world since December 2019. According to Dr. X, 2 million people have died owing to this pandemic.
That was a really good introduction. Great work, Bhakti.
Thank you, ma'am.
The whole world is got
Who's next?
coronavirus.
Can we have Varun next? Varun?
All right.
Yeah,
Here-
sure. Here it goes. As the world is going through the pandemic coronavirus, every country is trying their best to come with its vaccine. India too is working on it. ABC Pharmaceuticals has already started the human trials for the vaccine, and the results are quite impressive. According to XYZ consultation, 70 out of 100 COVID-19 positives have shown shining results. If the trial is successful, India will outshine and will have a upper hand in the medical world.
All right. So do you see what Bhakti and Varun did, right? They're talking about exactly the same thing. I gave the same line, and even Anamika for that matter. I think hers is just a matter of grammar and very minor things, right? But do you guys see what these 3 introductions did, right? I gave the exact same line to all of you. But do you see how different and diverse they wrote their sentences? They formulated their thoughts. Does everyone kind of see that? Yes, no?
Yes, Miss.
Yeah. Okay, so let's try one more and let's see how someone else has done it.
We have Varshini. Varshini?
Sure, ma'am. Here I am. India, with the second largest population, as expected, would lead in protecting humans from the COVID-19.
I think, Varshini, your voice just cut out in mid-sentence.
Okay, maybe we can move on to the next speaker, Sarvjeet. Sarvjeet, are you here?
Ma'am, is it audible now, ma'am?
Okay, let's go with
Hello.
Varshini, who is about to read it.
Yeah, ma'am. Human resource being the most valuable resource in India, the vaccine will ensure the country's development and economically. While the Spanish flu in 1918 was driven out by monsoons and volunteerism of people to help others, the current pandemic ought to be sorted out with a vaccine to avoid it claiming the lives of nearly 12 million Indians.
Okay, good. What was your introduction, Varshini? Just read your first sentence, your hook sentence.
India, with the second largest population in the world, as expected, would lead in protecting humans from the COVID-19 pandemic by introducing a vaccine.
Okay, great. Okay, so do you guys see what these guys did? That was a good introduction. Thanks for sharing, Varshini. So do you see what Anamika, Bhakti, Varun, Varshini, who else shared? I think we had 4, right? Do you see what they did? I think Varun was talking about how India would become the leader in the health field all over the world, right? Varshini was talking more on the human side of things, that of course we are looking to save lives, right? Anamika, Bhakti took different stances as well. I think Bhakti quoted a doctor, right? Anamika, can we hear yours again? Are you ready to?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm there.
Okay, let's hear yours.
As the coronavirus seems mushrooming all over the world, India looks forward for human trial vaccination in COVID-19 cases, and the vaccine is ready to go for experimentation. And by following the global norms and to fast track the vaccine, ICMR has created a vaccine, as the sources said, and in a gist that virus can't be treated without vaccine.
Yeah. So Anamika went totally like blunt, straight up statistics on you, right? Which was good. Yeah. So I mean, do you see all of them are very powerful in their own way? And this is the magic of an op-ed, right? You're talking about something factual, but you're putting your own words and your own spin on it, right? So now let's go on to, I think we'll call upon more people. Let's work on the body, right? Because that is the meat of your entire op-ed. Now your body is 3 paragraphs long. And what the body does, right? So 3 paragraphs again of 4 to 5 sentences each. Now remember, you have 800 words to make your point, right? So as these guys did, Anamika, Varun, Bhakti, Varshini, as these guys did, they kept their sentences very brief, very to the point. Every sentence was very crisp. If you read any sentence, you'd want to go to the second one. So great work, guys. Now let's move on to the body. Your body is the supporting points, that you're trying to make. And in an op-ed, typically you will make 3 supporting points. Now there was a question about, okay, supposing the op-ed turns into poetry. So I would suggest you keep your focus a little bit and finish the op-ed off, because your thoughts in poetry, if you want to turn it into a poem later, you will have everything in front of you, right? If you want to turn it into anything later, you'll at least have a very holistic article in front of you. Okay, so now in these 3 paragraphs, you're going to make your point. So let's go with Varun's. He is talking about, he made a very clear sort of opinion in his introduction. He has said that with the vaccine, right, if India were to create the vaccine, it will be the leader in the health field all over the world, right, or in the health industry. India will be on top. Now what Varun is going to do in the next 3 paragraphs, right, is he's going to describe why, right? This is why India is going to be a leader. Reason number 1, reason number 2, reason number 3, right? And there are going to be supporting sentences. So now we won't do the supporting sentences because we don't have enough time, right? But let's go to the body, and let's, all of your, does everyone have an introduction down? Like give a thumbs up in the chat or just unmute and say, yep.
Yes,
ma'am. Everyone has their own introductions, right? So we'll call on different people now to read their bodies. Now what I want you to go ahead and do is find those 3 points to support your introduction, right? So now you've made a clear sort of point in your introduction, right? And each point is individual. You've made a clear opinion, I should say, in your introduction. And every introduction, I'm sure, is a little different, as we saw. Now you're going to find 3 supporting points, right? So just write those 3 supporting points for now. Don't worry about filling in, the entire paragraph. I just want 3 sentences. What are 3 supporting points that support your opinion? So let's take maybe 3-4 minutes to write that. 5 minutes, I think that's good enough. So we'll stop at about 5:19. And I want 3 really good points. Yeah. So Varun, I'm going to have you read yours first since I used yours as an example, and then we'll call upon some other people. But 3 points to support your opinion in the introduction. Go.
Ma'am, I have a question. May I ask?
Please. Yeah, you don't have to ask me to ask a question. Then you're asking 2 questions. Just ask the question.
Yeah, so how I wrote was basically it was not directly citing that India has an advantage.
Sorry?
I mean, if you read the introduction that I wrote,
yeah,
it wasn't stating very clearly that India has an advantage. I kept it more open that if we are able to do that, we'll have an advantage then.
Yep. So fair enough. So right now what you want to do is back that up, right? So if India were to create, this would happen. If India were to create the vaccine, this would also happen. If India, so all these paragraphs are doing is supporting what you have written on the top, right? So it need not be, yours is more of an opinion piece, right? So what you want to say and what you want to focus on is if India were to create this vaccine, what is the advantage India will gain? Advantage number 1, advantage number 2, advantage number 3. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, can I read the last sentence to you? Maybe it'll help you. So I started with the stats, and then the next line was, as the clock ticks, the race to the finish line that of finding a vaccine intensifies. With announcement made recently by Indian pharma Bharat Biotech, the world is watching who would take this gold medal, and it is that uh, something I've written could leap ahead and gain, and it is here that India can leap ahead and gain economic field.
So now your 3 sentences is going to be why India can gain that advantage, economic advantage. If India were to create this vaccine, India will get ahead in the healthcare field. If India were to create this vaccine, we will be able to ship it to the rest of the world and diversify our imports and exports. This will help us.
Yes. That's what I wanted to touch upon.
Yeah. So these are going to be your 3 sentences. So now come up with your own. And don't worry about stats and that you can fill in later. We're just doing a workshop for now. So just as long as you get the main 3 sentences, yeah. So everyone keep writing, and I think we'll stop in just about 2 minutes. If you're done with your writing, as I see in the chat, then go ahead. You're superhuman. Go ahead and Google some statistics for me and make those sentences like really, really gripping. If you're already done. So I'll give you 2 minutes. Let's everyone keep writing until 5:19. Okay, 519. Can we have some people to read their body sentences, beginning sentences for the body?
Can I start?
Yeah, Varun, let's start with you.
Okay. So these are 3 points. Dr. Sharma and his team of ABC Pharmaceuticals has tested the vaccine on the patients of RML Hospital, and more than 70% of the patients have shown the boost in their immunity, and the virus effect seems to diminish. Second, ABC Pharmaceuticals, being an Indian company, will put India's foot forward in the world medical fraternity. And third, India can help the most affected SAARC countries through the vaccine and have a leadership stance in the coming meetings.
Great work. Although if you can find a statistic like you did in number 1, that would be great. So oftentimes, Varun, the only problem is, I know you're making it up right now as we go, just for the sake of this workshop, but feel free, a lot of times what I've done is I've called the hospitals. I've called up a doctor. I've emailed a doctor. You can even send a Twitter message to doctor or whoever, whichever expert you want. And I was quite surprised, pleasantly surprised at the response. They were more than willing to kind of help you out. You can just say, hey, I'm a student, I'm writing an op-ed, and I want to know about, hospital statistics, like how many trials have been conducted and what's the response rate? Can you give any stats? That is public information. So,
thank you.
Work. Yeah. Who else?
Varshini, can we have you?
India was one of the worst hit countries in the Spanish flu in the year 1918, and it would never like to have its history repeated. So, being ranked 76th among total of 143 economies as per the Global Innovation Index, India is expected to come up with a good vaccine. Also, when India is expected to be a global trade, it has to hurry up to revive human health so that it could revive its economic development and exploit this opportunity.
Okay. All right, let's have someone different that hasn't gone before. Great work, Varshini. So remember, these sentences are going to be the first sentences of your 3 paragraphs, right? So it shouldn't flow together as one sort of paragraph. This is just going to be your intro line, each of the 3 paragraphs. So keep that in mind. We're just not filling in the rest of the paragraphs because we don't have enough time. We have to wrap up the session soon. But let's have someone that was really good. And see the difference between I think Varun and Varshini was Varun took more of a local stance, right? Where he said that this hospital has these types of results and they're very promising, and this is why India is going to get ahead, because if this goes on, then he went global. If this goes to the rest of the world, the rate will come down. Now, what Varshini did was she put China in, which is also a trending topic on multiple days, right? Every other day, China is trending on Twitter and on Instagram. So 2 very different takes to make the same point. Let's have somebody else. Great work, guys. Let's have somebody else.
Can we have Abhimanyu? Abhimanyu, can you please speak up? Seems like he isn't here. Can we have Khushi? Khushi, are you here?
Yes, ma'am. Hello, am I audible?
Yep, go for it.
So my first point is that a race of saving life globally, as many of the countries have done human trials, so that I can put it in my information that you have said that we have to mention the facts. So I can put in the fact that which countries had done the human trial till now. My second point will be that it's a dire need of all the powerful countries like US and everything. So it will be my second point in which I can include the countries which need it because it's affecting its employment and everything and economy. And third will be that it will boost up the economy of India itself.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So I like what she did. I like what Khushi did. That it's a dire need across all countries. Why? She's also explained, because it hits their economy, right? And obviously it's a loss of human life, and people are getting affected. And then she went to India, right? Now creating this vaccine for India itself will not only be economically benefited, but will also be self-reliant, right? So great work, Khushi. Let's have one more.
Aneska, are you here?
Yes, I am. Okay, so I
Okay.
started off the introduction saying that there's a global race going on in which India seems to be having the lead. The race is that of the vaccine for the novel coronavirus. Since the first case appeared in March, the graphs are only on a high, with 6.25 lakh active cases as of July 5th. The ICMR has claimed that the Covaxin is on its human trial stage, and which they expressed in a letter released on Friday. If this if this experiment is successful, then the promise of Atmanirbharta will be spectacularly met. Then I'll elaborate on the whole concept of Atmanirbharta and how it's and what Modi said on it. Then India will also receive a global recognition, considering the fact that there are many countries who have a better health infrastructure than India, and also that India will have economic advantages when the vaccine will be marketed to all the countries and provinces in the world.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get your name.
Aneska.
I think it broke.
Aneska. I'll spell
Yeah,
it
sorry.
Anezka.
Yeah, Aniska, that's a nice name, very unique. Okay, so do you see what she did? It was very interesting actually, because she's also talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, right? And then she's also talking about, just read your last couple of sentences, Aniska.
So I said that India will also receive a global recognition, considering the fact that there are many countries who have a better health infrastructure than India,
Yeah.
and also that there will be economic advantages when the vaccine will be marketed to all countries.
Yeah. So she's made a very good point that, and I think everyone has made. So Varun went super local, right? Then a couple of you talked about self-reliant India, right, and the importance of that, how it's going to, creating a health vaccine will benefit us economically, right? And then this Aneska has also made a very good point of how India's reputation will also be better, right? Which is also somewhat of we're in a race for that as well, right? So the vaccine is kind of like an ego battle, right? Who's going to create it first? Because they are literally going to be the superhuman of the world, right? They're going to be ahead of everyone. And very important point, because we've been criticized a lot for our health infrastructure, right? So Aneska has made a really, really good point, which nobody else has made. Varun has made a really good point that nobody else has made. Uh, Everyone else has made very sort of discrete, different, diverse points, even on Atmanirbhar. Even though you are talking about self-reliant India, you attack different things and describe different things. So do you see how your body kind of comes together, right? And then I think you guys already have an idea of how you're going to elaborate it, including the country. There's a question here on while justifying opinion. You must include, the question is, can we include facts, history, opinion of other experts? You have to include this, right? Because if you think about it, we are not Narendra Modi, we are not economic experts, right? We are not like doctors and health and medical field experts right now. We are simply giving an opinion. So the more that you can back it up with facts, with statistics, I would say, I would avoid getting into, history and opinions of others, because unless it may be one or two to support what you're saying, if they are supporting your opinion. Otherwise, I would avoid getting too much into history and opinion of others, because you want people to buy your opinion, right? You want to gain credibility yourself. So focus more on facts, statistics, present circumstances, and if the other opinion is supporting you, may be included. If history is coming, that you have to include it in your thing, include it. But there's not one op-ed where I have gone into the history of anything. Okay, now we have a few minutes left. I think we're winding up the session at 5:40. So few minutes left. Let's work on the conclusion. Now, everyone write this down. A conclusion you should focus on one or three, all three of these topics. Okay, and if you're not speaking, just mute your mic, because I'm getting a little bit of disturbance here on my end. Yeah, so now let's focus on the conclusion. A conclusion should always focus on three things, right? You can choose one or you can choose all three, depending on you. First of all, you should restate your opinion, right? So that first sentence that you wrote, that hook sentence, it should be stated again, but obviously do not copy and paste the first sentence as is. Write it in different words, right? So Varun was talking about how India is going to be the leader in global health if we were to create this vaccine. Varun, you'd want to state that, the same thing, in different words. That's all. That should be the first sentence of the conclusion. Then what you should focus on is one of three things, two of three things, or all three. And that is magnitude, probability, and time frame. Okay? Magnitude is how big of a benefit in this case, right? It's basically the impact of benefit if your opinion were to come true, right? Probability is how likely your opinion is going to be true. And time frame is how quickly your opinion is going to come about, realistically, looking at present circumstances. Okay, so for example, let's go with Varun's because his is in my mind for some reason. So Varun, you would want to be, your magnitude would be India will become the global leader in health. What does that mean, right? What is the magnitude of that? How is that going to benefit India? How is India going to go ahead, move ahead on the international stage if we were to create this vaccine and become a global health leader, right? Your time frame is going to be how quickly, right? You can talk about we're already starting human trials at this local hospital. Many other hospitals will follow suit. If India were to follow suit, if many states were to do this, India will be way ahead and India will become a global leader. That would be time frame. Probability is how likely, right? So you're going to talk about, hey, we already have human trials going on. So the probability is pretty good that we're going to be creating a vaccine earlier than everybody else. And with that, India becomes a global leader. So Varun can choose to focus on one of these things, or he can choose to focus on all three of these things. What I would suggest is focus on one of these things. Now, magnitude, Ashish, is what is the impact if your opinion were to come true? So basically, in this instance, what benefit? Why is it so good that India create this vaccine? What is the benefit India is going to get? Okay. So let's maybe put it's 5:31. We have to wind up by 5:40. I want some questions also, if in case you have them. Of course, I'm open for questions after this session as well. But let's focus a little bit on the conclusion. Now, when you start your op-ed, I would recommend that you just choose one, right? Either magnitude, either time frame, or probability. Just choose one of those and elaborate on it. So you take your pick. Darshi 09, the time frame is how quickly your opinion is going to come true. Is it already coming true? Is it still going to take time? And why that's good? So remember, the first sentence of your conclusion is going to be rewording your hook sentence, right? Your lead sentence. And the rest of the conclusion, the remaining 4 sentences that you have, you're going to focus on magnitude, time frame, and probability. And I'm just, since I think people are asking the definitions of that, I'll just write it down in the chat box so that you guys can carry it for your notes. So let's write for until about 5, maybe, I don't think this should take too long, but about 5:36, so 3 minutes. And if you're done, we have just a couple of minutes here. So why don't you include maybe some statistics or Google some stats and make it a little bit more impressive. Okay, it's 5:36. Let's quickly have two people share their conclusions. Anyone that actually, let's have three. And Mona Lisa, I think let's do it this way. Anyone that's focused on time frame, anyone focused on probability, anyone focused on magnitude. I want to hear three good conclusions so that everyone gets an idea.
Ma'am, I can do magnitude.
Okay.
India can jump leaps and bounds and gain lost field economically. The fiscal deficit currently at rupees 4.66 lakh crore or 58.6% of the budget estimate. Large-scale export of the vaccine can see a U-turn in this expanded fiscal deficit, closing the gap by at least 2% in the next quarter.
2 thumbs up. Great work. Focused on good statistics, large-scale national statistics and international statistics as well. So you really showed how India can truly benefit from it. So great work. And I think she focused on economically. Now let's, anyone that has done probability.
Shrestha from probability, please. Shrestha, probability. Okay, Shrestha. Okay, yeah.
So several trials of vaccines are done under the health and doctor experts and other experts all over the different IITs and other health organizations in the country. It is very likely that India would bag the gold medal in the race amongst the countries all over the globe.
Great, great work. So she's basically trying to make the point that vaccines are, look, this is where vaccines are already being tested right now, right? So it's very, very probable. So Shrestha's end sentence will probably be something like, once she elaborates it, it is, look, we're already doing the work right now and we're way ahead of other countries. So India is very likely to be the first to create this vaccine. Good work. What's the remaining one? We've done magnitude, probability. Anyone on time frame?
Time frame. Shuvra for time frame, please. Shuvra.
Yes, okay, I'm Shubhra. India, almost at the last level of race, can earn accolades both in words perspective and in pursuit of making self-reliant India. India, as it may have trial results by August 15.
Okay. Let's have one more for time frame because I think Shubhra, we were barely able to hear you. So one more for time frame. But that was good. She focused on August 15th, which is what I was hoping she would focus on. One more for time frame, and then we'll start wrapping up the session.
I'll go for time frame.
Sure.
India's efforts on creating the COVID-19 vaccine is proving to be fruitful. As the trial results are on the positive side, it will be further extended to all the government hospitals across the states. And once most of the states are done with trials till end of this year, the vaccine will be available to the world, which will help India economically and morally as well.
So Varun, what you want to focus a little bit more is on the actual time frame, right? Now you've done a good job describing what's going on, but you need to say in one sentence that, look, India's time frame is exceptionally good and we're ahead of other countries because this is what we're doing and what you described states are doing as well as the central government is doing. Okay, so add that one sentence in that India's time frame is well ahead of other countries. This is
Ma'am, do we need to touch all the three things or is it only one thing for one point?
I would suggest start touching one thing because as you guys can see, it's taking you a couple of sentences to describe just one thing. So what I would say is when you start writing your op-eds, start just focusing on one thing. That's the most effective. Because if you start on all three, you'll just get one sentence in, this is the magnitude, this is the time frame, this is the probability. So I would suggest focusing on one thing, maybe two if you have enough room. Okay. Now we have a couple of sentences that people wrote. Let me go through, a couple of questions that people have written. Abhimanyu has asked format for writing a newsletter. Abhimanyu, the format for writing a newsletter is the same as an op-ed, right? If they want it shortened, I would suggest go ahead and write the op-ed and then you can choose which sentences to eliminate. That will automatically come once the op-ed is written. Kindly summarize today's session. Well, Op-ed has what, 800 to 1200 words, introduction, 3 supporting points, and a conclusion. You want to start with your lead sentence. The first sentence of your conclusion is the lead sentence in other words, and the 3 body points that you should be making should support your opinion, which should be given in the introduction, right? And conclusion should be focusing on either magnitude, time frame, or probability, right? Now, what other questions are there? Never, Chaitanya, never end an op-ed with an open-ended question, because people will not be convinced, right? That's like what PM Modi going to a rally and saying, will you vote for me? It's not going to work, right? The point of an op-ed is, this is my opinion and you should believe it because it's backed up by statistics and facts. So never, never, never leave an opinion, never put an open-ended question in an opinion editorial. How to choose a platform for publishing? Well, I think you guys should start self-publishing. I myself started on Youth Ki Awaaz and started publishing there. And today I write for Indian Express and WION regularly. So people will pick you up. And it's as simple as just posting something online, right? You'll get picked up automatically if you're a regular writer. If you pick a regular slot, if you want to write once a month, based on your schedule, right? Don't create an unrealistic timeline. If you want to do once a month, once every couple of weeks, once a week, choose that and stick to it. Because the more you do it, I promise you, it's a little complicated now. You have to think a little bit now, but this is just like science. Once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to just write it within an hour or two and finish it off. The first one may take a few days, a couple of weeks maybe, but as you keep writing them, I promise you by the third or fourth op-ed, you guys will be writing it in, faster than me. So, and putting them up. Yeah. How to decide on choosing a topic? That's a very important question. You should always choose something that's close to your heart, right? So I'm for example, a tennis player. I can write on something about how COVID or how tennis is, very low risk in COVID-19, and how staying fit and healthy is really good because it boosts your immune system. So that is something, if you think about it, Prayer now, who asked this question, that's something that not a lot of people have written about, right? Playing tennis and how it's important to stay healthy in COVID-19. And that is a perspective that I can bring because I've been playing tennis for 20 plus, 25 plus years of my life now. Okay. Akshit, what will be the word structure of the piece? Well, we've gone through that, 4 to 5 sentences each. Keep the sentences crisp and to the point because you have to make your point very quickly. The lead sentence is part of your conclusion because the lead sentence is the first sentence of your conclusion written in another way, right? So you basically, what you're doing is the reader is going to be re-diverted to what your point is, right? After reading stats and this and that in your body, which you're going to include, then you're going to be like, hey, you've read this, now this is my point. Are blogs a good start for students? I would avoid blogs because they are very free-form writing. There's no sort of structure to a blog. It's more like a diary entry or a journal entry. I don't know if anyone does that anymore. But I would start learning op-ed writing because, I don't think you should start on blogs. I think you should start on platforms like Youth Ki Awaaz, then go ahead to Swarajya, Op India. And they are more than welcome to taking in pieces, guys. They are looking for good writers. So if you guys can master how to write an op-ed, you guys will be in very, very good shape because I can tell you the country needs a lot of writers. I grew up in half in the US, half in India. I've moved to India very recently. And what I've noticed is that there is a lack of good writing, even by experts here today. Several other news platforms like WION judging on the credibility and quality of journalism. I don't know. I think that's an open-ended question. Akshit, you'll have to rephrase your question because I don't quite understand it. I don't think there's any such thing as, I've had articles that have gone viral in Op India. I wrote an article on RSS that went very, very viral. I've had one in Indian Express that went extremely viral. WION, some articles go viral, some don't. So everything can't be a huge success and everything is not going to go viral. But what people want to see is consistency. So today, if I write an article, the people on my Twitter are like, okay, I know this is going to be a good article. Let me go check it out. That's what you want. So focus on quality rather than quantity. And doesn't matter what the platform is, you should be credible. So make sure you're putting in stats, you're putting in statistics, you're backing your claims up, you're adding experts. You've double checked to see if that source is correct. Doesn't matter which platform you put it on. Biased articles, I mean, you have to take a stand, right? So you'll have to just eat that and take a stand, because you're either going to lean one way or the other way. So you'll have to choose sources and things that support your article, and those are going to be biased at the end of the day. Okay. Some relevant historical events I would avoid at this point, relevant historical events, because that is not current, right? Opinion editorial has to be on a trending topic that is current, and you're putting your opinion in. Okay. Effective title of article, Brajesh, is something I didn't get to, but once you create that conclusion and once you create that point, you'll automatically be able to create a title. So don't think about the title too much. I know a lot of people, including me, have obsessed about titles. Don't think about it too much. Okay. Suruchi has asked how to do a conclusion. Conclusion is not picking a topic from the body. Okay. Conclusion is you're going to repeat your lead sentence or your hook sentence, and then you're going to focus on magnitude, probability, and time frame. If you want to elaborate on the point that you have written, one of the 3 body points, feel free to do that in other words though. So don't just copy paste basically. Parameters to check if the op-ed is good enough or not. Well, you shoot it off to the editor and they'll either reject it or accept it, right? So Shrishti, I've had a lot of tons of my articles rejected as well. So you'll just have to take that plunge. That's a good parameter. Editorial analysis. I don't know. I think Shubhra, I've given you the sort of backbone of how to write an op-ed. So stick to this format, because this has worked for me while I was at Harvard. This works for me while publishing in Indian Express. It works for me while publishing in WION as well. Objectivity, Dr. Shoaib, Dr. Ahmed, sorry, objectivity is, it comes with your facts and your statistics and your analysis, right? So you'll want to base it on credible statistics. I think these questions are pouring in. And I think we're out of time. So Rahul, Mona Lisa, I'm going to wrap up. If you guys have any other questions, if you do, feel free to get on I don't honestly answer my phone, so useless to message me there. But if you write to me on Instagram and on Twitter, the handle is the same. It's Priyanka Deo, D-E-O. Okay. Just write and, say that, I connected with you on this workshop, and state your question if I didn't get to it. Plagiarism does apply to opinion articles. I believe one economist, I think, very famous economist from Brookings Institute, was caught plagiarizing an article. And now they went ahead and scrutinized all of her articles that she's ever written in the past. And basically her entire reputation has gone down the drain. So don't plagiarize. And guys, there's such a thing as self-plagiarization also, right? So if you've written an article, you cannot go copy paste some of the words of that article and put it in the next article. You'll be called out on that. Maybe not in India yet, but these are all online platforms. The whole world sees it. A lot of NRIs look at it. A lot of NRI leaders look at it. So you don't want to be caught on that plagiarism boat at all, because just those, that moment of laziness where you're copy pasting, your entire reputation will just go down the drain. So don't do that. No specific format, Chaitanya, on the final sentence of the conclusion, but do not make it open-ended. That's all I can say. Historical events, Suruchi, can be mentioned as a data point. So I think, guys, 5:50, I don't want to keep you on your Sunday as well. Please go enjoy yourself. Don't stress out. This is supposed to be fun. But what I can tell you is, if you can get ahead and learn op-eds, the country needs young writers really, really, really badly. and you will get credibility for it. You will get a standing for it. So please, work on it. I'm here to support you. Please feel free to contact me on Twitter, Instagram if you have any questions or if you get confused or frustrated. It is a frustrating process, but like anything, if you keep at it, you guys are going to be pros in no time. Yeah? So with that being said, I'll give it to Rahul and Mona Lisa.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to extend a vote of thanks. Now that we have reached the very end of our session, I would like to thank you for to all the stakeholders, including the speaker, the participants, as well as the organizers. I would like to extend a token of gratitude towards Priyanka ma'am for sparing a bit of a valuable time towards this session, especially at such a short notice. And I shall also like to thank all the participants for attending the workshop and cooperating with us throughout the session and helping it make a great success. So thank you everybody. Please join the next session. Thank you.
Yep. I hope that was
Okay, ma'am.
helpful. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.